Today, Beej is finally in the intro to CheckPoint. This is ChillPoint. Hey everybody, welcome to ChillPoint, aka CheckPoint, the later years, the after time. How's it going on? How's it going? That's the thing that people say, that humans say, of which I am one. Hey, got my CheckPoint mug filled with garbage day tea. That's not an insult towards this tea. That is in fact the name of the tea, is Garbage Day. It is a custom, this is the last of it, unfortunately. It was a custom blend that a fan sent to us of a variety of Loading Ready Run inspired teas. I believe Garbage Day is a pu'er, which I am always a fan of. So yeah, let me welcome some subscribers. TXC2 for 54 months. Time for the chillest of points. I don't know. Maybe not the chillest of points. There was that intro bit with the today. It probably could have been chiller. I'm just saying. Snake12341 for 20 months. Hey, 20 months long with the best boys and girls on the internet. Let's have more fun. Indeed. Manic C Dream Lurker, chilling with the Chill Point. 44 months. Mr. SVCD with 18 months. 2 babies? I mean, if you're extremely efficient, I guess. Lord Crusher with 100 bits, thank you very much. And a conspiracy of cartographers for 64 months. 64, 38,911 basic bytes free. Oh yeah. Nice little Commodore 64 reference there. Or possibly a reference to the very famous 64K song. 38,911 basic bytes dead and on the way up to heaven. H-Bomb and Friends, 69 bits. Thank you very much. So, for those of you who have not seen a Chill Point before, what we're doing here, you know, on a normal episode of CheckPoint, if you've watched it on the YouTube channel, you can see, you know, it's 5 or 6 minutes long. Very tightly edited, concentrated comedy goodness that we work on. We come in with, I collect stories throughout the week, and then come in on Thursday, and Beej and Kathleen and I, and sometimes Graham, depending on what's going on, will discuss the stories and write 3 to 4, 5 stories that we do, and then we record them, and we get it perfectly right. We do the recording flawlessly the first time, every time, as you all know. And then afterwards, we talk a little bit, give you a little bit of more background info about the stories that we talked about and stories that we didn't talk about, because there's, you know, we collect a variety of stories throughout the week, and obviously not all of them turn into CheckPoint stories. And so this is that, except without the actual CheckPoint part. I'm just going to be talking about stories because, look, I personally have been doing CheckPoint and before it ENN for, I don't know, 10, 12 years now? Jesus. A long time. You know, evaluating video game news, not necessarily for its newsworthiness, but for its humor. And so it's kind of it's almost like a habit. I'm always I have my various news feeds that I look at, and it's just something that I'm very in the habit of doing every week. And so even when everyone's away at PAX, I'm still checking. I still usually am checking the news feeds and see what's going on. So if I'm collecting the stories, I might as well show them to you, so that you can enjoy them as well. Veggie Kex for the 7 months. BWK 789 for 3 months. Red Shoes Jeff for the 500 bits. Wooga Chaka for 2 months. Ooh, that is a name with high potential. You've only been here for 2 months, but I anticipate that future readings of your username will be filled with much joy. And Mirnus with 68 months. Thank you very much. All right, so let's talk about things that happened this week. And like I said, these are stories chosen more for their comedic potential, I guess you would say. Their what, at least in my mind, that there's some little nugget of comedy available. They're not necessarily for their absolute newsworthiness. But obviously, when a story is a big thing that's going on, there's often stuff to talk about. For instance, you might have heard about this little thing called World of Warcraft Classic. Yeah, that's right. Just came out this week. And, of course, we've done we did a crap shot a while ago about how, WoW Classic is never going to be what you want, because what you actually want is to go back to being a kid again and playing World of Warcraft. But what I love is there's been some great articles written about World of Warcraft Classic, and sort of focusing on the idea how well they've managed to really emulate the experience of playing WoW Classic, especially the opening weeks of playing WoW Classic, or playing World of Warcraft back in the day, in the sense of the servers being massively overloaded and it actually not working very well. Because you see, what happens is that how they set it up is that everybody who currently has a WoW subscription, however million people that is, automatically gets into WoW Classic. So unlike, if this was a new MMO, the audience would ramp up, right? As people sign up for the service. But the way they did, Blizzard knows how to roll out servers for an MMO. They've been doing it for a really long time. But even they had a few problems with basically a huge chunk of their entire fan base, or their entire user base moving over to WoW Classic, which I imagine, who knows what sort of behind the scenes stuff they've done in terms of, they've said obviously they want to keep it as authentic as possible. I don't know whether that means that, server optimizations that they've done in the years since are not in place for WoW Classic. But one of the things that is absolutely great, that is getting people to feel nostalgic in possibly not a good way, is one of the things that I'm not a WoW player, but one of the things that about WoW is that the original how WoW right now works in terms of XP and rewards. You got to be, from what I understand, you just have to be near an enemy when it dies to get the XP and rewards and stuff. You're sort of, by being close to the enemy, you're considered to be participating in that fight. Back in the day, it didn't work that way. Back in the day, it was whoever got the last hit on the enemy was the one who got the XP and the rewards and so forth. So what that means, when you combine that with a ton of people all joining the servers all at once and all doing there's a bunch of low-level quests that are like, get me 10 bear asses or whatever, right? Kill 5 of these things. And frankly, there just aren't enough bears in the starting area to feed everyone. Oh, is it first? Right, it's the first hit, not the last hit. Sorry. There aren't enough bears or bad guys of a given type in the starting area for everyone to do it. And so what you end up with is that you have all these adventurers running around, but not enough enemies for them to actually fulfill their quests. And so what I love about this is that completely independently, people have basically self-organized into queues. So, you have the spawn point for a wolf or a bear or whatever, and then all the players are just queuing up outside this are just queuing up by the spawn point. Bear spawns, guy hits it, kills it, goes around to the back of the line. Another one spawns, guy kills it, goes around to the back of the line. Apparently it's quite well organized. Like, if you step out of line, you can get in trouble from people. So I love that, within the fiction of the game, of course, there's the guy who's assigning you the quest is like, oh, please help us. There's these terrible bears are attacking our village. Please, you must protect us. Whereas the actual situation is that there are so many adventurers that literally there aren't enough bears to kill. So anyway, we talked about last week that there's the thing with that they had to make it so that your skeletons aren't persistent, which they were in original WoW, because that will cause people to spell out both like spam advertisements for like gold farming and stuff, and also swears and slurs and stuff. So anyway, I'm sure over time the WoW stuff will work its way, will figure itself out. And in fact, if you look at the schedule, the current plan is that on Tuesday, the 3rd, September 3rd, James is going to be playing some WoW Classic. Now I say that's the plan. I feel like James might be slightly optimistic about this. He is coming back from PAX on Tuesday morning. Like, he's getting most of the crew is getting the early clipper on Tuesday morning. So James will have gone, to Magic Fest Vegas, from Vegas to Seattle to PAX, and then coming back in the morning, and then immediately going into playing WoW Classic. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Maybe playing WoW Classic will be a nice, relaxing time. Who knows? I mean, or you can, or maybe waiting in line for his chance to be a bear. Ben is already sick. Are you serious? Oh man. If those guys all if all the people at PAX get sick and then come back and make me sick, that is no good. That will make me annoyed. Anyway, so World of Warcraft, somewhat rocky launch. Let's just leave it at that. So I got very excited. I got very excited about this story that I saw on Kotaku because of the first line, which is Victoria police announced on Friday that 6 people have been arrested in connection to an investigation into Counter-Strike Global Offensive match fixing. And I was like, what? Victoria police? And then, of course, I found it's us. It's Victoria, Australia. Which makes more sense. As far as I know, there isn't like a huge Counter-Strike Global Offensive community here in Victoria. But I was super excited. And super pumped that the Victoria police was involved with that. But sadly, it's Victoria, Australia, also known as the other Victoria. Our sister city. I don't actually know anything about Victoria, Australia. Anybody from Victoria, Australia in chat? Is it cool? Is it a good place? I hope so. Anyway, so yeah, apparently 6 Australians have been arrested in connection with investigation into Counter-Strike Global Offensive match fixing. They're arranging to throw matches and then placing bets and blah blah blah, which is an interesting. I guess it's the thing where it's like, throwing Counter-Strike Global Offensive matches into itself obviously isn't illegal, but it's interesting to me that the betting laws and match fixing and stuff is, at least in Australia, the laws are written such that I guess the laws are written such that it doesn't matter what the thing being bet is, what you actually are betting on, whether it's a sporting event or an esports or computer game or whatever. Match fixing is illegal regardless. But anyway, there's a Victoria, Washington. Well, I know there's Vancouver, Washington, which is extremely confusing. Because especially if you're in Seattle, Vancouver, Washington, and Vancouver, Canada are actually like relatively close, at least in relatively close in terms of distance from Seattle. And so I remember I was traveling by Greyhound and I, get on the bus and it's, and I was going south, down to this, down to the States. And so I get onto the bus and it's like, next stop Vancouver. And I'm like, no, I'm going back. I don't want to go back. Seattle is halfway up the state. Vancouver, Washington is the southern border of Washington. Yeah. Alrighty. People are remaking Super Mario 64 inside Super Mario Odyssey. I think we've reported on it a couple times in different ways, but using emulators and so forth, Super Mario Odyssey they figured out how to hack the crap out of it, and now they're working on here. I can switch over. This is just a little animated GIF at the beginning. So they're working on porting uh, levels from Mario 64 into the Mario Odyssey engine, which seems like a great plan, except for, of course, that if they get anywhere in terms of actually accomplishing anything, Nintendo will shut them down. Because, of course, they will. It makes me. I've talked about this before, but this kind of stuff does make me sad. Because, whenever I see anything like this where people who are obviously incredibly talented and very skilled at all sorts of different things choose to spend a whole bunch of time working on something that is basically doomed because they're using a license that they don't have, and the way that these companies, the way that most of these companies work is they don't really pay attention until it gets to a point where it's actually reasonably significant, and then they'll lay the hammer down. So you can kind of work away on it and be like, well, they haven't said anything, so I guess I'm okay. But that's not actually what it means. So unfortunately, unless you actually have a real licensing agreement with a company, I can't recommend people, despite how neat these projects are. I just can't recommend people work on these things. It's just, it's not a waste of time because you're still, there's learning and stuff, but it just makes me sad to see probably that it will get shut down at some point. It's just sort of lost potential, Speaking of emulator stuff, because the Mario Odyssey thing, of course, is an emulator. Speaking of emulator stuff, RetroArch, which is a sort of a retro gaming sort of meta emulator, I guess. It's got like a bunch of different engines in it for different retro things. They have in the newest version of it, they have a new feature that uses Google APIs and various tricky things to scan the images, to do on-the-fly translation of stuff. Let me show this here. ActRaiser.
Please decide your name.
Which
I am the one angel who will be able to help you out here.
It also can do voice.
Nowadays, only the real thing is infested.
I mean, machine translation, it's true. Machine translation of Japanese has problems.
Fight against the monster, please.
But it's pretty neat that that these things exist. There's some great screenshots here. These are great screenshots. This is of Mother 3, a game which has never been ported to North America. You can see these are the automatic translations. Everyone is rice, which clearly explains what's going on. Which, by the way, so the real translation for that is everyone, it's time to eat. And so, but the way that the way it's set up is, um, the way it's written. It's like it's time to eat, or it's rice time, I guess. And so the translation says, "Everyone is rice." So I feel like it's probably better for like menus and stuff to actually like figure out how to get into a game. I could see it especially useful for stuff like when Heather and Ian are playing like rhythm games that aren't available in English, and so the actual game is fine because it's just a rhythm game, but the just like the menu items and stuff have to if you can get at least like a bare translation, so you can be like, okay, this one means go. I could see that as being useful, and it's just neat that it's actually like now embedded directly in the emulator. Catching up on subs here. Master2505, time for PowerPoint with the 250 bits. E-Block, 150 bits, thank you very much. Upstage JMC for 27 months says 27, woo, ChillPoint. I feel like ChillPoint followed by 3 exclamation points might be somewhat missing the point of the chilling aspect. But you know what? If you're excited about ChillPoint, that's good. The Last Jedi, for 32 months says a good Paul. And Bleeding Toast for 16 months says heart Paul face. And Modrin for 35 months. Thank you very much. What else we got going on here? Speaking of Nintendo stuff from before, the Wii U and 3DS eShops in the EU and the UK are going to be stopping accepting credit cards. So in order to actually, so the Wii U and the 3DS, not the Switch, but on the Wii U and the 3DS eShop, you'll have to actually like add money to your account, like through your through like the web-based Nintendo account, and then go onto your 3DS and stuff. People think that that's because there's the new there's like new EU regulations for payment service providers, and that either Nintendo doesn't want to bother updating 3DS and Wii U stuff because they're sort of end of life anyway, or that the 3DS and the Wii U literally can't do whatever, the encryption or whatever has to be done in order to make them compliant with the new regulations. So they're just kind of gonna punt it and just be like, just do it through the website. We don't care. Yeah, just take a 50 € bill and squinch it up really small and just shove it into the drive. Actually, knowing Nintendo, their solution will be like mail us your 50 euro note, and we will when we receive it, we will add it to your account, then probably like mail you back a receipt. Okay, so this next story is something that's been a little bit, it's a little bit controversial stuff. I don't really want to get into so the big detail. So okay, there's a game called Ion Fury that's realistically had a lot of good buzz about it going on. people were very people thought it looked really neat. It's being it's sort of a retro style shooter. Developed. It's not only a retro style shooter, but it's actually developed by Voidpoint and 3D Realms. So 3D Realms, the people who originally did Duke Nukem are involved in it. And so people were kind of stoked about it. And then some stuff came out that one, there was some things that could be objectionable in the game, but more significantly, there was some leaked stuff from like the Discord of some of the developers going off in sort of tirades against what they perceived as the sort of censorship and blah blah blah. But what I thought was particularly interesting about this is that these guys, they handled this in basically the worst way that they could, to the extent that I don't know if they'll be able to recover from it, because so the main thing aside, so there's the stuff that the developers said in this sort of leaked Discord thing, which is legitimately pretty objectionable stuff. But the objectionable content that's actually in the game itself is pretty minor. In fact, the main thing that's objectionable is what they were being criticized for being homophobic is that there's a shampoo bottle that is Olay shampoo brand. They did "Oh Gay," which is, it's like, I mean, I guess that's sort of true to the dumb, like Duke Nukem style humor, but it's just like, okay, good job, guys. It's like not even a good, yeah, exactly. It's like not even, I mean, it's not even like a joke even. Like it'd be hard pressed. It's just like, oh, okay. You put gay in a thing. You made a word that says gay. Good job, guys. So anyway, they did that. Some people were like, hey, what? That's pretty dumb. Like, that's kind of dumb that you guys put that in there, and criticize them for it. I think rightly so, and not only rightly, that like criticism came. It's not. They should have expected criticism to come to that, and realistically, that's like kind of the reason why they would put stuff like that in the first place, right? It's like, oh, controversial. Not that, oh, gay is very controversial. And so they did that, and then some people complained about it. And so then they, of course, they were like, oh, geez. And then the stuff came that they had put out these comments on their on the leak stuff on the Discord and stuff. And so of course, and so they're like, okay, sorry, we did the thing. That wasn't our intention. There, some rogue artist put the shampoo bottle in there. Wasn't our intention to insult anybody. We're gonna take it out. So of course, a bunch of people who are overly concerned about censorship or developers changing games based on feedback from the community, then decided that, oh no, now they were bowing to the they were bowing to these people who had criticized them about having this dumb joke. So they must be cowards or whatever. So we're going to like review bomb the game, being like, I would have bought this game, but since you guys have have bent the knee or whatever. Since you guys have cowardly changed it and taken out the "oh gay" joke, I'm not gonna buy it anymore. So they got review bombed, and caused all sorts of problems from people. And so then a couple days later, they go, Ion Fury goes like, you know what? No, we are not gonna bow to this rampant, PC culture gone crazy. We're gonna stand up and we're gonna fight against censorship and we're gonna put our stupid "oh gay" shampoo back in the game. That's right. And so, but of course now it's like a whole thing. And so they put the thing back in the game, and it's not even, now it's like nobody cares about the actual like thing that they put in the game. Now it's about the whole like statement of the thing. So of course, the people, like anybody who was like, yeah, it was probably a good idea for you guys to take it out in the first place, is now they're review bombing the game because they're like, well, clearly you guys are assholes because you're taking this weird, you're deciding to die on this weird hill of putting a bad gay joke into the game. So anyway, basically they succeeded. They took something that was a teeny weeny joke that was stupid and a couple of people objected to, and they turned it into basically making, both people who liked the joke and wanted it in the game and people who don't like the joke and don't want it in the game to be equally mad at them, and review bombing their game. So I don't even know if at this point it's hard to tell if it's even a good game or not. I think it was gonna be a good game before all this stuff happened. I mean, the one good thing about it is apparently in order to appease somebody, I guess, they said they're going to donate $10,000 to the Trevor Project, which is nice. So, I mean, I guess that's something that has sort of come out of it. But other than that, it just seems like, it's like the ultimate, or one of these ultimate, like, tempest in a teapot problems, where it was like, good job, guys. You made a thing that wasn't going to be, like, it wouldn't have been a thing. But you using your savvy social media marketing abilities, you turned it into a thing. Yeah. Anyway, it's a dumb thing, and it was a dumb joke to begin with, and the whole thing just became dumber. So, anyway. Now, after that depressing story, let me tell you about Uno. And not the card game. No, no, no. Uno. Uno, spelled with two U's. So Uno is the company dog for Remedy, and it seems that Remedy just they just recently released Control, and as part of that, they moved to a new studio and stuff. And one of the things that they pride themselves on is their extensive motion capture ability. And so, I guess it was late one day, they had done all the stuff they needed to do with Control, and they were like, hey, I wonder if we could motion capture a dog. Well, we have this doggy here, and he's the best doggy. You know, that's a very short video about it, but they apparently it was just like a testing. This is a testing thing. They're like, can we motion capture a dog? Yes, we can. The motion capture data hasn't been used for anything yet, but everything because obviously dogs have been in video games for a long time, but dogs in video games are always keyframed animation, and so they're like, can we motion capture a dog? Apparently the issues that they ran into were that getting the dog comfortable with the motion capture rig, so that it would so that the dog would move relatively normally, and obviously getting a motion capture setup that would be comfortable for the dog. But apparently there's actually a lot of stuff about, because there's a lot of assumptions that you make when you do motion capture of people. A lot of how you manage the data is uses assumptions about the human body, right? Where the arms and legs attach, and the skeletal structure and that kind of stuff, which you have to change when you're doing when you're motion capturing something that is on all fours. But apparently it worked quite well, and they're going to be looking at the data. And for one of the things that they want to do with the data that they were talking about is that even if they don't use it for actual like in-game motion capture stuff, what they're thinking that it might be quite useful to look at it and sort of compare it to the stuff that they've keyframed animated, to actually sort of see how a dog really moves as opposed to how the keyframe thing. And like the data might not be sort of clean enough, and the dog, it can be hard to get the dog to do what the dog has to do in the game, and it has to be in the right spot and all this kind of stuff. Motion capture can be quite finicky. So they might not be able to use the data directly, but they could use it as sort of either a base or to use it to compare to the keyframing data that they're already using. And most importantly, he is a very, very good dog. Uno. U-U-N-O. I don't know how you pronounce that in wherever place Remedy is. But anyway, why don't they just motion capture Andy Serkis? Look, they can't. I mean, yes, Andy Serkis can be anything, any animal, any creature, everything. But there is only one Andy Serkis, as far as we know. Clearly, they just have to get Andy Serkis to motion capture, just to build like a huge database of different animals to motion capture. Remedy is in Finland. Ah, that makes sense. Yeah. Wait. How? Sorry. How is it that this collection of dots is adorable? Like, is that not the most adorable point cloud you've ever seen? I don't know how that works. It's amazing how the brain messes with you. Anyway. Telltale Games. Telltale Games might be coming back might be sort of coming back. It seems that the Telltale assets have been purchased by a new company who are they've been purchased by a new company. The company has been founded by some people who are look like to be primarily doing like mobile games and stuff. I gotta say, at this point, it looks a lot like, you know, the sort of one of these, like, you know, hollowed out husk of the company being worn as a skin by another company, to use a unfortunate metaphor. But the positive part is that it does mean that, you know, regardless of whether they've said that, like, oh, we're gonna keep, you know, maybe we'll keep developing more Telltale games, which I think is pretty unlikely. But regardless, the idea, having somebody actually like own the IP and developing the not developing in the game sense, but developing in the intellectual property sense, somebody who actually sort of is invested in the IP, at least means that Telltale games might be available for sale again, which that'll be good, because Telltale games haven't been available for sale since Telltale went poop. So at least that's something. I'm pretty skeptical of claims about, you know, that, oh, maybe we'll be able to hire back some of the people from the original Telltale. Bloody blah. Also, of course, I'm pretty sure they're not gonna, you know, Telltale, when it collapsed, owed a ton of people money, which I presume is part of the Telltale did a Bone, right? I remember Telltale did a Bone game. Man, I really liked Bone, the comic. I was super into the Bone comic, like, really early. Like when it first came out, the original, like, black and white comics. I was a huge fan of that series. Stupid rat creatures. I mean, quiche is just inherently funny. In the continuing battle of good versus evil, well, of developed game, of hackers versus big corporations, which side of that is good and which side is evil, I will leave up to you. But there's you know, there's this constant push and pull between people hacking consoles and then the console manufacturers dealing with that. And I love the headline of this story is Sony is still trying to stop people from hacking the Vita, for some reason. Because a relatively new there was a relatively new hack for the current Vita firmware that was a pretty, like, it was an easy hack, right? It didn't require a lot of extra stuff, and it appears that Sony, very quickly after that hack was sort of disseminated onto the internet, Sony pushed out a firmware update that, you know, it's one of those firmware updates where the description of it is like, improves performance and stability, or, you know, a very generic thing. People think that basically the only thing the firmware update is doing is patching the hole that that the jailbreak firmware was using, or the jailbreak was using. Um, but the consensus of a lot of people is like, why bother? Like, seriously, the they're not producing Vitas anymore. About 6 months ago, a year ago, they announced that no like Vita cartridges were even being produced anymore. So there's no new games coming out for it. Why do you care so much? It's not like people are like, it's not like a bunch of homebrew firm stuff on the Vita, or even like a bunch of hacked stuff on the Vita is going to be depriving a bunch of. It's going to be stopping you from getting a bunch of Vita sales. The story actually that I was looking at here, I looked at originally back on Tuesday, and I see yesterday there was an update to the story that they looked like they found a way around this new firmware that was just released. So, better luck next time, Sony. That serves you right for trying to protect your intellectual property. Ha! So we'll see. They'll go back to see if they'll actually go back and do yet another firmware or what. But and finally, possibly finally, there is a new Pokemon game coming out, which I feel like is something that we've been saying a lot lately. Like the Pokemon universe, whatever, the Pokemon world, I feel like has expanded greatly in the last 2 or 3 years. Like it used to be there was like the Pokemon games that were released every year, every couple of years. But now there's so many different there's Pokemon Go and Pokemon, Go Eevee and Go Pikachu and all the different variations of the thing. But anyway, there's a new mobile game called Pokemon Masters, which is notable because it's like I don't know that much about Pokemon, but it from the descriptions I was reading of it, it sounds kind of like it's almost stepping you one step back, like one step farther back than a normal Pokemon game, because instead of catching Pokemon, in Pokemon Masters, you're actually catching Pokemon trainers, basically. And the Pokemon trainers come with a particular Pokemon. I don't think you get to put the Pokemon trainers in Pokeballs. Maybe there's like special Pokemon Poke Trainer Pokeballs. And so the fights, in some ways the fights are like, because the fight in a typical Pokemon fashion, the fight would be like a Pokemon fighting a Pokemon, and then the trainer being like, Pikachu, use that thing you always do. Electricity, I guess? I don't know Pokemon very well. Whereas now, you the player are like controlling the Pokemon, are like basically you're giving orders to the Pokemon trainer, and then the Pokemon trainer is giving orders to the Pokemon. So we've kind of stepped one step back from in the sort of level of meta control. So I kind of like that idea. I don't know if maybe my perception of it is not true, but it sounds kind of funny. The idea that instead of catching Pokemon, you're catching Pokemon trainers who you are collecting Pokemon trainers to join you on your quest. That being said, from what I understand, this game is kind of bullcrap in the sense that it's basically like one of these sort of gachapon loot boxy style things where you like spend points or coins or in-game currency that you can buy with real money to get a random Pokemon trainer, which could be one that you already have, and then you level them up or whatever. It sounds very mercenary, shall we say. Which, I mean, it's a mobile game, so there's a certain amount of that to be expected, but yeah. But yeah, where like Pokemon, obviously there's the thing where like you want to match your type to the Pokemon you're fighting, right? If the guy's fighting with a fire type, you want to use a water type. This is sort of the same thing, except if the trainer is using a fire type Pokemon, you need a trainer that has trained up a water type Pokemon. It seems like the having the trainer there as well is like an extra step for no reason. And the idea, also, from what I understand about the Pokemon universe, the idea that a trainer would have one Pokemon seems laughable. Like, I feel like only, only Super Garbo trainers would only have one Pokemon. Let me welcome people. Master2505 for 100 bits says, "Yay, puppies! ChillPoint." Man, that would be a good show. Just a roundup of all the cute news. I mean, I guess there are Reddit subreddits and Twitter feeds and probably YouTube videos about that already. I don't know if that's a niche that really needs to be filled. Feistier Ermine for 35 months says, "Hello." Hello, Feistier Ermine. Miss Temperance for 31 months. Thank you very much. There are subreddits, yes. Cute. There are subreddits for many different things. I'm kind of sad that I'm sad that Cam is away. Because my I won't say my new favorite subreddit, but a subreddit that I encountered the other day that I feel like you would appreciate is before I say this, I'm not recommending you go to this subreddit because it's called what is it? Pictures you can smell. r/pictures you can smell. I'll just leave to your imagination what kind of pictures would be on that subreddit, but when it's just like that it's just like it's got a built-in, it's a subreddit with a built-in "I have been on the internet too long" part. All right, so I think that's all the news I wanted to talk about. Not really. I mean, as we often say, we're going into PAX, where obviously there's going to be various things announced, possibly new games or news or whatever, and so we'll things tend to be a little quiet in the lead up to PAX stuff, in the same way that when there's like a tsunami about to come, the water like rushes out right before the tsunami comes. uh, you sometimes end up with that kind of effect around video game conventions and stuff. But anyway, thank you all for joining me, and don't leave or don't go too far though, because we're gonna be doing a whole lot of aha, that's weird. Wait, got stuck halfway out. Aha, there it is. Yeah, coming up is going to be Play It Forward, where I'm going to be playing Thimbleweed Park, which is a adventure game in the style of the sort of old school LucasArts games. In fact, it was co-developed by Ron Gilbert, who was was also responsible for some of those games, Day of the Tentacle, I believe some of the early Monkey Island games, that kind of stuff. So it has a great pedigree. I've heard wonderful things about it as a game. It's supposed to be a lot of fun. And because Alex finished originally, this weekend, it was Alex was going to be mostly would probably have been a lot of Alex playing Dark Souls or Demon Souls. And then I was like, maybe I'll come in and do an extra stream at some point. And then Alex went and beat Demon Souls. And so we were like, oh, well, we should maybe have something else in there. And I was like, hey, I could do Play It Forward. And so, yeah, I guess I will do all of the streams. Because I'm on here today, and then at 2 o'clock, and then tomorrow at 2 o'clock, and then Saturday at 2 o'clock. There's a certain pattern here that you might have noticed. So 2 to 5 is going to be my Play It Forward of Thimbleweed Park. Starting actually basically now, because it's 2 o'clock. But I'm going to go offline, maybe 5 or 10 minutes. And then I'll be back and we can start on Thimbleweed Park. And I'll be playing that on, so on today, tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday. No streams on Sunday. And then on Monday, again, theoretically, from what I understand, I'll probably be finishing it up on Monday, if I hadn't already. And then Monday night, we actually have something very special. Of course, like I said, the most of the crew is getting back on Tuesday, so the normal Dice Friends will not be taking place on Monday, but we will have Dice Friends because we have something very special for you. It is it's going to be a pre-recorded Dice Friends, but it is called After the Flood Strand Lines. So if you are a fan of the After the Flood series that Cameron did with Corey and Serge and Adam and Ian, then you got to come and check this out, because this is going to be 4 one-on-one sessions. So it's just Cameron and one of the players that we recorded, and it's kind of a prequel, not prequel, but a kind of a backstory thing. So it's 4 little vignettes of things from the characters' past that might sort of inform some of the stuff from After the Flood. So if you haven't already watched the After the Flood series, I suggest you check it out. I think you'll probably enjoy these adventures regardless, but you'll probably get more out of it if you are familiar with the After the Flood story in the universe and how the characters are. But anyway, so that will be on Monday at 5 o'clock, the usual Dice Friends time. So, I will see all y'all in actually just a few minutes. So, I will be going offline, and then I will come back for Play It Forward of Thimbleweed Park. Bye.